Uptown Photowalk is a monthly community gathering of photographers. We meet basically just to hang out, chill, and take photos. We've done, I think, one official event before, which was the gallery at Booney, which you can see some of the remnants of it around this space. Figured it'd be nice for you guys to actually experience the gallery space while you're here. Today we will be discussing the different ways you can get into various industries with the skills of using a camera, right? There's not one way. There's actually a lot of ways, and they'll explain more. I'm gonna try not to talk too much. I am gonna answer some of the questions myself because people have asked me. One of the reasons we want to do this because people do ask us a lot, like, hey, how do you do this? How do you get into the industry? How do you take portraits? How do you do all this stuff? So that's why we have this whole weekend. Before anything, I mean, I know I talked a little bit about Uptown Photowalk, but we're gonna watch a quick video. You haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it should be a fun time.
The first Uptown Photo Walk I went on, it was a total whim. I got to meet a whole bunch of really awesome people that I follow on Instagram and kind of support each other in our photo journey.
It's been really an incredible 2-year experience getting to know a lot of local photographers in the neighborhood.
The crew definitely made me feel at ease.
The first one that I went to, I have some really amazing, awesome friends from that I have hired for work.
It's been great to be people who really have become lifelong friends now.
I usually photograph people and events, so it's actually my first experience doing street photography.
Let me introduce everyone on this amazing panel. I'm Emmanuel Abreu. I'm the founder of Uptown Photowalk, a co-founder of Word Up Community Bookshop, and I'm a professional photographer and videographer. I've been shooting for 15 plus years. I focus a lot of my stuff on Uptown organizations and stuff, but I obviously also work on other areas, the weddings, mitzvahs, corporate stuff, the really fun stuff. And Sam Popp is a professional corporate and lifestyle event photographer, portrait artist, small business owner, event organizer, marketing enthusiast, and girl just trying to make her entrepreneurship dreams come true. Before working, oh, there's more. Before working as a photographer, Sam worked in sales and marketing for both local and national hospitality brands. She's also the founder of Networking Sucks, it does, and an event series that ran from 2015 to 2018, where she designed events for thousands of attendees in New Jersey and NYC around topics like networking, digital marketing, and personal branding. She's had work published in the New York Times, been featured in Time magazine, fucking dope, and even shot stills on a set for a documentary featuring the Clintons. This month, she's celebrating 2 years working full-time for herself after being laid off of a full-time job and deciding to dedicate herself to running a photography business. That's a joke. Leomary Rodriguez is a video director, photographer, and founder at Big Deal Creative. She works in documentary-style storytelling with cinematic elegance, engaging diverse audiences, and earning recognition along the way. She's worked with brands like Nike and Crunchyroll, where she turned brand visions into narratives that resonate deeply with their audiences. She advocates for growth in the media industry and contributes to various film communities and imparts wisdom at global film festivals, reinforcing her commitment to evolving the craft. At heart, she's driven by the power of stories that provoke thought and inspire change, striving always to create visuals that are not only seen, but truly felt. Lauren von Eckartsberg, I don't know why I said it like that, is a professional photographer, grants administrator at Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, and education community engagement director at Souls in Focus. Your business card must be long as hell. She has a passion for arts education, youth development, adult learning, community building, and social justice. And throughout her career, she has experience in and commitment to working with historically underrepresented communities. One of her current projects is Love York City. Is really dope. You should check it out. An ongoing series consisting of portraits and audio interviews of people talking about what they love, what love feels like, and how they've experienced it in their lives. Give it up for Lauren. Dotshotit, Jeffrey Batista, who for honestly, I used to, I'll say it later. I used to read your Instagram name wrong, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. All right. Jeffrey Batista is professionally known as Dotshotit, is a self-taught. That's hot. That is exactly it. Is a self-taught photographer, videographer with a diverse portfolio of published works, community exhibitions, and collaborations with notable brands. He specializes in capturing the essence of individuals and places, promoting their unique image. He's worked with Warner Brothers Studios, Rock Nation, Johnny Walker, and other brands. His work has also been exhibited at NOMA, Booney Coffee, Manhattan Times, and 1010 Wins. Give it up for Dot. Here's how we're going to structure this. We're going to go one by one. We're going to just talk a little bit about each individual. We're going to look at some of your photos, and you could pick what photos you want to talk about. You don't have to talk about all 10 photos. It's a lot of photos. And we're also running late because of that audio shit. But so we're going to start with Sam. This is going to be the same question for all of you, so the rest of you have the advantage of being able to think about this a little bit. So we're going to talk about how you started your photography. Talk about how you started your photography, and how you learned, what inspired you in the first place, how you learned, and what inspired you to actually keep going and pursue a career.
Well, hi, very happy to be here, and thank you for the incredible introduction. So I am a child of the internet. I grew up on MySpace and Zanga and LiveJournal, and always loved taking photos. Remember running around my apartment complex with my friend Stacy, who is actually right here. I just photographed her in LA a couple months ago, but me and this girl used to run around our apartment complex and take pictures of each other with her Sony Cybershot. I think that's her red Sony Cybershot. And then we would put all those pictures on MySpace. So I always really loved taking photos. When I moved to New York City from New Jersey in 2015, I really loved walking around the city just taking pictures with my phone. And I know that a lot of people like to take pictures with your phone. It's the camera that you have in your pocket, but I really, really fell in love with it. So it was in 2018. I was working as a receptionist. I had just gotten a side gig doing social media for this bar in the Village called Madam X. So I was going to have a little extra income coming in, and I was like, you know what? I want to buy a camera. I've always wanted to buy a camera, and I told myself in my head I could never afford one, or that I was never going to be able to afford one. But when I got this little side gig, I was like, I'm going to buy a camera. I bought a $500 Nikon from B&H. I went and picked it up on my lunch break at my receptionist gig. And just started shooting pictures at Madam X on auto with the flash on the camera. I did not know really how to use my camera, and I also didn't tell anybody that I bought a camera or was taking any photos at all. I never used my camera unless it was at Madam X to create content. It was right before the pandemic that I realized that I really liked using my camera and wanted to actually learn how to use it. So I started taking some classes, and I remember probably 2 weeks before the pandemic shut down, I put something up on my Instagram and was like, hey, I think I want to start shooting portraits. If you're interested in doing some portraits with me, reach out. Had a bunch of people reach out, and then 2 weeks later, There were no more events to shoot at the bar. There were no more portrait sessions to do with anybody because the world had shut down. So I moved back in with my parents for a short amount of time during the pandemic and bought a $30 tripod and just started shooting self-portraits and teaching myself how to use my camera through YouTube and LinkedIn Learning and Skillshare, just watching as many videos online as I could because suddenly I had all of the time to do it. When it was safe to see people in person again, I started shooting portraits summer of 2020. This person right here, Fuchs, she's a Grammy-nominated music artist. He was the first person I ever did a portrait session with, and now he has continued to hire me 4 years later to shoot portraits for all of his promotional music work. So yeah, I just started shooting as much as I can, learning as much as I could online. And it was just a side hustle. When I started actually sharing my photos on Instagram, people started hitting me up, asking me what my rate was. So I was like, oh, I guess I gotta make an LLC. So I made an LLC in 2021. Was just shooting like birthday parties for friends, portrait sessions for fun. And then in 2022, I got laid off of my job in digital marketing and was like, I'm just gonna see how long I can go without getting a job. And it's been now 2 years this week. I think yesterday was my actual official like termination from my job. They laid off the entire marketing department. I didn't get fired. I didn't do anything bad. But yeah, they laid off the entire marketing department and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna see how long I can go. And it's been 2 years and I'm getting bigger and better clients and just keep going with that. So yeah.
So I know you talked about this was your friend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a laser pointer. And what? This guy looks familiar.
Yes, that is Mike Tyson at a 420 event this year. This company called Royal Queen Seeds, and I typically don't shoot cannabis stuff, but I have a friend who works for a cannabis PR company. He had a client who hired Mike Tyson to come to Times Square to count down to 4:20 p.m. on 4/20. And my friend was like, if you want to come through with your camera, you can come and shoot this. So the photographer that's actually right behind him is a Getty photographer. So that was a photographer that was paid like several $1,000s to be there, actually shoot it for the media. I was just kind of invited to shoot it for fun. It was a little scary when Mike Tyson walked in the room. The energy dropped. Like everyone was like, everyone kind of held their breath. I didn't talk to him. I was afraid to talk to him. But I did shoot a bunch of photos, and it was a really cool experience. I somehow get hired to shoot a lot of celebrity stuff, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, that was one of the most recent ones. I can tell if you go to, I can tell a quick story about the photo of these people hugging. Yeah. So this is at an event in New York. This was a conference in September for a e-commerce photo software. This software company hosts these events for photographers and for e-com professionals, photo studio professionals to come in and learn and network. It's a sales generation tactic for them. I had somehow been following the people that run this event on Instagram, and when they put out this event, like when they published it, they said, New York photographers, we're looking for New York photographers to join this event. I filled out, I was like, okay, I'm a New York photographer. I don't really do e-com stuff, but I'm gonna fill out the form and see if I can go. I got a email back that I was rejected from the event. They said, you are not the kind of photographer that we want at this event. And we wanna know if you would be interested in shooting our 8-hour conference. Okay, this is a full day conference. If I'd be interested in shooting their 8-hour conference for free, for access to the event, I said no. I was like, no. I said, if you have a budget, we can talk, but no, like I'm not building a portfolio. I'm not shooting any 8-hour anything for free. They emailed me back. They said, we do have a budget. It was very small. I got on a call with them and I said, listen, I'm gonna take your event because I do want to be in the room and you do have some sort of a budget. But when I send you my proposal, it's gonna have my real rate on there. I'm gonna discount it down to your budget. I do that when sometimes people don't have budgets so that they can't ever come back to me and say, oh, you shot it for this last year. No, I shot it at a discount for you and my real rate was on there. You were aware of that. So I said, yeah, I'll do this because I do want to be in the room, but I want you to understand you're not, and I said this to the girl on the phone, on the Zoom call, I said, you are not going to get another other photographer in New York City at my level of expertise for this budget that you have. She was like, all right, I get it. I feel like we kind of set a boundary there, and she respected me. So I shot that event in New York. They fell in love with my work so much, they flew me to shoot the same event in LA a couple months ago. In October, they are flying me to London to shoot their event in London. And this came off a rejection email, an email that they asked me to shoot for free. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So don't be afraid to not shoot something for free. It might result in a future trip to London.
Let's go to Leo.
I don't even know.
You like Leo or Leo? What do you like more, Leo or Leo?
My brother's here, so we gotta say Leomary.
Leo. Leomary.
Yeah, he goes by Leo, so.
Oh, you Leo? Okay, got you.
There can only be one. So like you, I am, a person of the internet, child of the internet. And my thing at the time was Tumblr. And I was like, man, the quality here is insane. Who are these people? And then I wanted to get into photography at that point. I didn't have a camera at that point. I was hired by Temple University to work on research that they had, but I wasn't researching nothing. I was just knocking on doors and taking data. And after that, I was like, oh, this is like a summer job in college too. And after that, I had like $2,000 after that, and I was like, I could get a DSLR. So I got the DSLR after that, and I ran that thing to the ground. I was like on Model Mayhem. I was asking my friends. I was like shooting everybody. My first muse is right here, Janae. One of the people that I first ever photographed. So from there, I started to learn what was technical about the camera. So I started to learn the biggest hurdle for me was lighting and color correcting, color grading. So I started following this other photographer. His name is, I think, Shamayam. And he only does black and white. But if you see my work, it's all colorful and vibrant. And the thing that I liked about his stuff that just stood out is like there's no color in your images, but they're all bright. Like they all say something. So what I started learning was not how to shoot in black and white, but how to edit in black and white. So then I understood contrast. And once I understood contrast, I started implementing that in my edits. And that's why the colors pop the way that they do. Because you can't be afraid of the shadows. So, you feel me? You can, because now you could frame anything you want when you manipulate lighting, photon photography. So you're manipulating light. So that was the learning journey. And I had like other side jobs that had nothing to do with photography or content creation, but now it has everything to do with it. Like I worked at BronxNet, and then I also worked and that helped me network. Because the job that I was doing there, I was just like in community, attending events like this and getting to know people. So that was great, but it had nothing to do with what I do now. And then after that, I worked at a film festival that also had nothing to do with what I do now, but it technically, in a way it does, because it was also networking, but I was tapping into talent. So now I have like this pool of talent from all over the world. And I've been working for myself for the past year and some change. So when you said 2 years, I was like, oh shit, this is this is possible. This is really possible. So now I operate as an agency. So I tap into people, tap into talent in different parts of the world, specifically also in like marginalized communities, because working with big brands and working with these names, it's a great thing to have in your portfolio, it's a great thing to have on your website, but the reality is that sometimes you get lowballed. Sometimes you get lowballed. Then you have to sit there and ask your colleague, your friend, hey, how much did you get paid for this shoot? And then if they tell you the truth, you have to go back and talk to that brand or that big company and say, hey, I talked to my friend, you guys collaborated on this. What's the deal? What's the real budget? Talk to me nice. So things like that happen. And sometimes your best clients are people, like you said, like you wouldn't even think, you wouldn't even know. Like I worked with a research organization. That was my best client. You end up developing relationships with them. The budget increases, everybody's happy. And then from there, one thing leads to another. Like I've been working for myself, but I haven't outreached yet. Everything has come to me. And going back on the internet, putting yourself out there, like not only in these spaces, but submitting to things like, oh, let's write an article, let's feature you. If you submit to that, that comes back somehow. But that's my journey, y'all.
Do you? Oh, yeah, please. Do you want to talk about any of these? I mean, this is all Uptown Photowalk stuff right here, right?
Yeah, this is all Uptown Photowalk.
Shout out to us.
Yeah, period. These are fun because I like portraits specifically because I feel like you get to bring something out of a person, because I feel like a lot of people rely on just who the person is in front of the camera. Like if you have a beautiful model, they don't have the self-awareness. They might not have the self-awareness. Some of them do, but some people don't have that awareness, and maybe you just want to capture a candid, and that's fair too. But I also think that once you engage with people and start talking to them, getting a little bit of their story, they forget the camera's there. That's also why I started shooting, because in college I was like, how am I gonna get to know people? Use the camera for events, you know, like have it as a buffer. So that's kind of how I capture portraits, and you could kind of see it here. Yup. And that's from Girls Who Shoot. Okay, Flor Dalis. I gotta give Flor Dalis her flowers, you know. She set this up with Latina Magazine. So the people that hosted this walk was Girls Who Shoot and Latina Magazine. These are some of my favorite shots ever, because they're like the brightest things I have in my portfolio.
Yeah. I just want to say, because I think you guys been working for more years generally, right? The fact that you guys have only been working 1 and 2 years is fucking mind-blowing, because the quality of your work is easily a 10, 20-year like quality.
We're gonna edit
that. I'm serious. I mean, your work, like, I just learning when I got your responses, I was like, what? Nah, you've been working at least 10 years. What the fuck are you talking about?
I would say that on the side, full-time for a year.
But I mean, because these are like, I mean, look at these shots, guys. Like, are you kidding me? All right. Anyway, I just wanted to. So, same question to Lauren. I think you started the youngest from this group.
I don't remember.
You put 8 years old.
Oh, did I?
Not that you started working, but like
I did not. I was not a child laborer. No, but yeah, I really. It's really cool to hear everyone else's responses, because I think we all have had like different journeys to photography, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I had a camera. Like, I remember it was one of those. I feel like I'm older than most people here, but like it was one of those cameras that like the film looked like a disc, like a floppy disc. Yep. Okay. I see some of you remember that. So yeah, I would like take pictures of like, I don't know, my yard or like my cat and like dumb stuff. But yeah, I've just always been into it. And in high school, I took I was lucky we had a photography class in high school, so I learned how to use a darkroom, learned how to develop film, print film, all of that. And in college, I minored in photography. So it's always just kind of like been part of my life. I think for a long time, I thought of it as a hobby and something personal that I didn't want to really kind of put out there and share with other people. I thought it would make me like it less if I started to get paid for it. And then probably maybe 2016 or so, I had a friend here in the city who was doing like engagements and weddings and stuff like that. And so I saw some of her photos and I was like, oh, I can do that. Like, why am I sitting here like not trying to get paid? So I started doing some of that. I used Thumbtack, if anyone remembers that. I mean, it's still around, but I think it's awful now for anyone trying to get hired. So I don't use it anymore. But so that's how I started kind of.
Don't sue us. You are terrible, but don't sue us.
That's how I sort of like dipped my toe into getting paid for photography. And it was fun. It was like an interesting way to kind of test myself and, see what it's like to be stressed taking photos. I did some surprise engagements that were wild. I did one that I will never do again in Rockefeller Center, which is like actually where I work daytime, but when the tree's there at night, like forget about it. Oh my God, it was awful. I mean, I can talk about that one later if you want, but yeah, it was such a learning opportunity though for me, because I realized kind of throughout that process that it helped me kind of develop my skills, and sometimes I'll still do that type of photography. Like sometimes I'll do events, but really what I realized throughout that was that I was taking portraits the whole time and like didn't really care about the other stuff. And so I've kind of just learned what I enjoy in my photography and what I want to take. And so for me, it's similar to what you were saying about kind of connecting with people. Sometimes it's sort of my excuse to talk to someone. It like makes me feel a little more confident. So I can just like be like, oh, I want to talk to you. So like, hey, can I take your photo? And like start the conversation that way. But yeah, I do a lot of personal work. So I do a lot of projects that kind of speak to me, that I'm not starting it from a place of trying to get money, though that would be nice eventually. But I'm sort of just learning how to take something that's a personal project and learn how to sort of market that to a larger community where it could be seen or I could get paid for it. But that's a big part of my work. And then also back in, I think, 2022, I also started with Souls in Focus. I am an education and community engagement director there, and we are a community kind of similar to Uptown Photowalk, where gather folks who are just really interested in kind of learning more about photography, creating a community, and really just kind of creating opportunities to learn and grow together. So yeah,
Nice, thank
that's
you.
me.
So, and I mean, honestly, I would love to hear you talk about every single one of these photos, but I put these three together because that's obviously from the same event, and we've talked about this before. But are there any of these that you want to talk about specifically?
I'll talk. Yeah. Actually, I don't know where they start, but I can quickly talk about the twins. Yeah. So I really love. I love series of portraits, and I also love just like weird Americana stuff. And so this is one of my favorite events in the world. I'm originally from Ohio. I've lived here for a really long time, but this is an event in Twinsburg, Ohio, called the Twins Fest, and it's happened for like decades, and it's the coolest, like most hilarious thing ever. And this was the first time I went. I've actually only, to be fair, I've really only been twice, but I am, yeah, we'll go for many years.
Twice,
but,
really?
Haha, yes. But this was great. So this was, I think, the first one they hosted after the pandemic, and the theme was the Roaring Twinties, and just like it was just it's just the wildest place, and just everyone's super fun, and it's also like when you go to things like this, it's great because people want to be photographed, so there's not that annoying thing that now happens all the time where people don't want to be photographed, which is fine, but like it's definitely trending that way where it used to not be such a big deal. If you go to this. So the first one here, this is from a project I did during the pandemic about I guess maybe I should have said this too. During the pandemic, I did a 1-year certificate program at International Center of Photography. And prior to the pandemic, I was going to just quit my job and just do that. But then the pandemic happened, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not quitting my job. Like, I'm not dumb. Like not to turn down money intentionally. So I did both of these things full time at the same time, which was pretty wild, but it worked. And this was from my final project there, and it was all about my apartment building. And it was a really awesome opportunity to kind of get closer to my neighbors. And also I live in Harlem. This was actually my former building, but this was also in Harlem. And it was really cool to also just learn about like physical space, like the actual apartment where we were and who lived there in the past. And I found out all this really cool information. Like I really like to do research as well. And then these other 2 photos are my mom. I'm like continuously doing a long-term project about my mom. She was adopted, and the picture that I'm holding in front of her is actually her birth mother. And it's wild because like for most of my life, I thought it was a picture of my mom. Like that's how similar they look. But so this project's actually developing into something else. I really want to turn it into a movie. So I just started a screenwriting class recently. So no idea how to do that, but it was, I don't know. Sometimes you just feel really passionate about things and make it happen. And that's kind of where I am. But yeah, so, and the one on the right of her, she doesn't like this photo of her, but I love it. And it's one of those things where like, I just I don't know what is going to happen with some of these photos, but sometimes I kind of just feel the need to take them and document and keep it going.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Speaking of mothers, I'm kidding. So yeah, same question to you.
So I'm a 80s baby.
Also, you're the second youngest. You say you started at like 13.
Yeah, I don't know, something like that. So it started somewhere in the 90s, but ironically, I have an uncle that he passed away, but he was a photographer. My father, my mother's brother, and then I found out later on, like probably like 2 years ago, that my father's brother is also a photographer in DR, which is kind of crazy, but. So I always seen my uncle, my mom's brother, always taking photos or whatever, always with a camera since I was young. But then around the time of like, maybe like 12, 13, I started buying, like, the disposable cameras came out. And I started buying just every time I went to Woolworth, Mom, let me get a disposable camera. Yeah, and then go develop my film myself. You know, it used to be like $1 to develop film. And now it's outrageous. I have a bunch of film cameras that I don't use because of that. But
blame the young people.
But yeah, so I started taking pictures of my friends. We'll go out to play basketball. I have a disposable camera on me. At the pool, like High Bridge, everywhere. Like I would just take my camera with me. Then later on, you know, life happens. You become a young adult. Got a girlfriend, and I forgot about cameras. You know, like who needs a camera? So then. Life went on, and years later, like Instagram happened, and iPhones and stuff, and now we have a camera on our bodies at all time. I started using Instagram like in 2011. Started posting pictures on Instagram. Didn't think nothing of it. My background during that time was like actually music. Like I used to rap. I used to produce records and. A lot of if you're from the Heights, you probably heard of my crew and all that, but that's another lifetime. Anyways, during those times though, I always had the camera on me on stage, like taking video, like little videos and pictures of what we were doing. Fast forward, I met a friend of mine that was a photographer, and we were chilling a lot, and he was like, "Hey man, you got like an eye for photography. You should pick up a DSLR." I was like, "What the hell is a DSLR?" Like, I didn't even know what it was. And he was like, "You know, one of them digital cameras." I was like, "Okay, show me." So he showed me what he was doing with his camera, and I was like, "All right, that looks interesting." I borrowed. He let me hold one of his cameras. I started shooting with him, and I picked up a camera. Same thing. Like I went to the website. I had my eye on the Canon T3, not T3i, the T3. Yeah, before the T3i. I got jerked because like 2 months later the T3i dropped and they had like slow-mo and I was tight. I was mad. But I picked it up and that was like my little workhorse at the beginning. It was just a hobby at first. 2012 to like 2014, it was just like every day I was obsessed with my camera. I was up and down with my camera. I would go to work. At the time I was working, I had 2 jobs. I'm a retired barber, so I have 25 years cutting hair. I was doing that, and then I was working with special needs kids for like 9 years. I was coming out of my job crazy because them kids was driving me insane. So 3 o'clock, I would just walk out them doors. I'm out of here. My friends are like, where you going? I'm out. I'm going on a walk. So I'll take my camera and walk downtown from like 3 o'clock to like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then go home, just shooting. Practicing, learning my camera, learning light, learning shadows, learning what I want to shoot. What I gravitated to was street photography. I just found peace in it. Nobody's bothering me. I'm people watching. It was just very like therapeutic for like the rough day I was having, right? So that went on. Then in 2014, I moved to Miami with my families. So from 2014 to 2016, I was in Miami, and I didn't have my friend there no more. Like, I didn't know nobody over there. So I just started shooting, like, by myself. When I have time alone, I'll go take a ride or, like, look up places on Instagram, like, that people are shooting, and go to those places and try to get some shots out. And in Miami, I started a clothing line. This is how I actually started getting clients. I started my own clothing line with a friend of mine over there, and I started shooting for my clothes, like some hats, some shirts. We had some sweatsuits, and I started taking portraits of like his son wearing it, my son wearing it, us, like all types of stuff like that. So then I started posting it on Instagram through another page, not through a photography page, my photography page, but more through another page. So through the clothing page. There, I got some clients. I got a client hit me up through that page, like, who takes your photos? Like, they're really good. So I said, I played it like it was a photographer. Right? It wasn't me, right? So I was like, oh yeah, Dotshotit takes it. He's really good. I sent him I sent them my page, and they contacted me, and I was shooting content for them for like 3 years after that, and that was like my first paid gig. And then a friend of mine at the same time, around that same time, flew me back over to New York to shoot like a small wedding, like a real intimate wedding. That was really cool. So he paid me for that. And then when I got back from Miami in 2016, I went back to the school, and they didn't have I used to be a teacher's assistant, but I had to downgrade to a paraprofessional, and I hated it because it was like they were just giving me the kids that needed the most attention just because I was available, you know what I mean? So I toughed it out there, and that's when I was like, you know, I want to do more of this. So I was shooting. I would go out. Also, from 2016 to 2018, I went out. I did the same thing I was doing prior. I would leave at 3 o'clock, go out, shoot. This time I'm way more seasoned, and I'm taking way better shots, street shots. So I said, you know what? I want to print a book. I want to make a book. My sister's a graphic designer, so she helped me out. We set up a book. I did 100 prints. And the book is about New York, street photography. You can find it on Amazon too. That's a plug.
Sorry, fuck Amazon. He didn't say that. We'll find another way.
Y'all can order them from Amazon too. I'll put you on for the low. It's called New Yorker. But like abbreviated, so NYRKR. If y'all wanna go check that out, it's all candids and like street photography, color and black and white. It's like a coffee table book. So in those 2 years, I did that, and then like in 2018, a friend of mine, she actually is the owner of Salsa con Fuego. She wanted me to come for the nightlife, but I'm working in the school. So I said, there's a discrepancy there. I gotta get up early to make it to work. So she was like, how much are they paying you? And I was like, this and this and that. And she was like, I'll double it, come on. I said, what? All right, let's go. Cause she at the time she owned Salsa con Fuego, and she owned Don Coqui in Astoria at the time. So I was doing, like, I was getting paid the same amount for like 8 hours of work. It was a no-brainer, you know. So I said, oh, I'm out of here. I took that. That was my first like leap into just working photography. So then from 2018, since I had all that time, that extra time, I was doing a lot of like searching for little ins everywhere else, and then I ended up getting other jobs like weddings and whatnot. And in 2020 happened, and everything went downhill from there. The nightlife closed. Unemployment was my best friend. They were giving money. Trump was here. So then I took that time to. I actually was trying to outsource jobs in other states. So I knew people in Miami. I would go down to Miami, and I started working with some reggaeton artists. I know a lot of people in the Latin genre. So I was working a lot with Spanish artists, and yeah, and the rest been history. Like I feel like the work comes if you work. Like if you put in the work, that's how it's been happening to me. I don't look for the work. The work just comes as long as I keep working. So like during pandemic, I was just sitting at home, and I get a call from Led Black from Uptown Collective that he wants me to submit some photos for In the Heights. It just came to me, right? So I just submitted the photos that I was taking from 2016 to 2018, the ones from the book, like the leftovers and like stuff from that I shot In the Heights. I submitted those, and they picked 6 of them, and I didn't even have to go shoot them because I already did the work, you know. So it's like I feel it comes back tenfold. A lot of people want the work, but they don't want to put in the work. Yeah. But if you put in the work, it's gonna come back.
Let's go through some of your photos. Like this one jumping on the right.
Oh,
you
man.
need to talk about this because holy shit.
I love that image. That's actually my compadre. We go on these hikes. Like we literally pick a park. We open Google Maps and say, okay, we're going here today, and we take a drive, roll up some blunts, and go on our nature hikes. So this day we went on a nature hike, and it had just rained, and it was freezing. It was probably like 22 degrees, and we're walking around, and this is at Rockefeller Park, upstate, and there's like a big lake, but the lake was frozen, and I guess the temperature dropped a little, so it was like melting. Like it wasn't melting, but it was like mist coming out of the ice. That's why this is not retouched. I took that one photo and kept it moving. Yeah, like I told him jump, he jumped, I clicked, and it was like, oh shit. I was fucking amazed because that happens like, you know, every so often, but the way that came out, and it was like a silhouette, and the colors, I probably edited some of the branches on the water so it could like the reflection could be clear, but that was it. As far as the color, that's how it looked that day. Yeah, and it was a good experience.
That's dope. You guys talked about like your first gigs and all that stuff. Did any of you go to college for photography?
I went for something adjacent.
What did you go for?
Media study. Video
Alright, so not the
production.
same. Okay, so the point in that,
That is-
in me asking that, is that you can do this without officially studying it in college. And I tell people all the time, like, don't waste your money on that stuff unless like you're going to like network, unless you're doing it because you're getting like you got a scholarship or something. I'm not advocating against college, but you can see it's not absolutely necessary. So the next question.
You got YouTube University. too.
Exactly. Shit, I learned kind of the same way you did, just like going around shooting. Like that's how I learned. So I'm sure a lot of people here are like good photographers, and maybe you're not really in the industry yet. I saw that face. But when did you feel like, okay, I got the skill set, now I can actually start charging this amount, right? Not, oh, let me see how much they'll give me. Like I could get $50 here. I could get, when I started, I shot for about a year with nonprofits Uptown, and it was just like, give me $50, give me $100, and that was just because I was still learning event photography specifically, and that was like my plan. And then once I learned, I set a price. But like, did you have a moment or a gig? And everybody can answer this. Anybody can answer this. Yeah, did you have a moment where you're like, okay, now I'm gonna charge $200-$300 an hour or whatever it is?
All right, so boom, this is what happened. When I quit working at the film festival, which was like the last full-time 9-to-5 job I had, I was negotiating, this is like between quitting and like leaping. So I was negotiating a contract to do event video production. I'm just gonna tie video production into it because like the things that I learned from photo translate to video. And when I negotiated a contract that started at $5,000 and it ended up being $30,000. So, and then I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna quit this job. And then I quit as soon as, I actually quit the day before they signed the contract. So I was just like, I'm gonna quit, period, regardless of the outcome. And then when they agreed to the terms, I was like, oh, this is how much I should be charging. So that like unlocked something in my brain. And also just having access within the film festival industry and other places, other spaces like marketing, I started to realize like production companies operate in a certain way, agencies operate in a certain way, and things just tie together to produce photo and video in a certain way. So I started to just communicate more with people to understand like how much am I supposed to be charging? How much am I supposed to be making and at what level? Because I also recognize maybe I'm not at that level from an agency standpoint, but I feel like you just keep unlocking levels, That's I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Well, I feel like in the same thing. Like every job leads you to the next one. So like, and then you get to a point that, well, I don't know how it is for you ladies, but I'm like a jack of all trades. That's just what I can consider myself, right? But then like, so I like touch a lot of different parts of photography, right? Because it's hard to make money off of street photography. So and quite frankly, it's crazy because that check from Warner Brothers was from street photography, right? But that's probably my only check from street photography. So for me, it's been a struggle to know who to charge and what for, right? So like if it's portraits, yeah, okay. But how about if this person wants video? I do video too. I do my own editing and everything. So it's like, what do I charge for that? So I have to do my research and see what other people are charging, and that could get a little like intrusive, and it's a little like hard to navigate. But you come to a conclusion, and you ask yourself, what am I worth? Like, and stick to your guns. So that's what I tell people. Like, if you think you're worth that, stick to your guns. Don't go under that. And if you're not worth that yet, you'll be there. You'll get there. But stick to those guns, and somebody will bite. It's like fishing. Like, you're gonna catch one. Just wait, be patient, and keep doing what you're doing, and keep working. Like I said, it'll come back. That's how I feel.
Yeah. So this is just my own thing. One thing I started doing recently, because I work for a lot of different studios that shoot events, and something that I noticed is that studios really like to keep a lot of the money, and we're the ones doing most of the work, right? And they outsource the editing, and they're paying like $30 to $50 for like a whole event, and we're getting, let's say, $100 an hour, right? In the end, they're keeping $300 to $500 an hour, right? Which is really fucked up. So what I started doing is charging them like a better rate for myself. And then anybody I work with those studios, I ask them, hey, how much are you getting paid? I'm very like upfront. I don't bullshit. I say, how much are you getting paid? That's not enough. Charge this much because they need us. And I know that they need us because I get texts late at night saying, are you free this Friday? Are you free this Saturday? Because they need us. So don't let anyone ever lowball you. Just because you're like new to them doesn't mean you new to the shit, you know? You're not new to the game. You know what you're doing. Make sure you're getting your worth. And ask other people, like ask us, ask anybody who's actually working. Ask them like, hey, how much are you getting paid for this stuff? This is what I'm doing this weekend. I feel like $500 is not enough for a 12-hour gig. Yeah, it's not. So so just keep that in mind anytime you're working, especially with other studios. And you obviously set your own prices for your own clients. Speaking of which, would any of you or all of you like to share a story about a particularly tough client or project that you had to get through?
I got one. It's quick and easy. It wasn't actually the client, so it touches base to what you was just talking about. It was a middleman. So like a middleman was trying to lowball me, right? So I was there doing like 12 hours, some food photography for like 12 hours for a hotel, but I got hired by the middleman, right? And I'm telling him like, yo, you got me here for 12 hours. So you're supposed to be my man, bro. Like, and yo, they just kept bringing out plates. And I'm like, when is this gonna stop? I wasn't even hungry. Like, like, yo, plates after plates after plates. I'm like, oh, no. I left. I was like, I can't take it. I couldn't take it. I was like, I'm gone. I called my cab, 12, and I deleted his phone number afterwards. I was like, you don't do this. But yeah, it was hell. That was probably the worst experience. I've had good experiences. I won't lie.
Speaking of food, do you guys get fed at your gigs?
Oh, absolutely.
I put it in my contract
Yes.
that you have to feed me for anything that I'm shooting that's like an all-day event. And I actually shot an all-day event on Wednesday that I did not have that in my contract because I signed their contract. And nobody came out to feed me. You know, like I was not offered food. I had to like kind of not steal it, but just kind of like sneak my food. But I was like, wow, like this is something you always have to put in a contract. And working in events, they feed all their vendors. They should be feeding all of their vendors. So yeah, something to put in a contract.
Not a bad client at all. It's like a repeat client that we have. But last year for our Souls in Focus event at Juneteenth, which we're doing again on the 15th, come through the Brooklyn Museum. But it was just hard. It was just, there were so many people, and we had a portrait station set up, and we did both Polaroid photos and digital photos. And we wanted to make sure that people could keep the Polaroid photos, but we also wanted to have a record of them. And so it was super hard because I was scanning with my phone all of the photos before we gave them to the people. And so we had this like wild system set up, but I say that because even though it was crazy and really hard to manage, it was so worth it because those photos ended up in W magazine online, and they were, you know, one of the highlights of the day. So I think that generally when stuff goes really bad in shoots, it's like it's awful in the moment, but if you can sort of power through it, it sometimes is like the best part of it.
Yeah, I can share a tough client experience that I had last September. Last August, I barely worked, not of my own choice. I just really didn't get booked, and New York City is kind of empty in August. So I didn't really work very much in August, and halfway through the month, I started getting some inquiries roll through for September and said yes to a lot of stuff because I just really needed the money. Like I said yes to a friend's wedding. I really don't like shooting weddings, but I said yes to it. I had a personal party in New Jersey that came through a referral. It was a client that I had shot before, and this was a party for her cousin. And her cousin didn't have a huge budget, but she was really sweet on the phone, and I decided to do it for this lower amount because it's in my hometown in New Jersey, and I was like, oh, I'll go there, and I'll rent a car, and I'll hang out for the weekend, and I'll shoot your party, and it'll be fine. She wound up being a huge boundary pusher. She changed the location. We were going to do a portrait session before her party, and then I would shoot her party. She was trying to force me to agree to shoot portraits of her in a reservation in New Jersey that you need a permit to shoot in. She didn't want to buy a permit, and I said, I'm happy to refund you. Like, I'm not shooting there without a permit because I respect the space, and I'm not going to lose my ability to shoot there in the future because you don't want to pay $150. Like, there's lots of free parks we can shoot in. Even up until the day of the shoot, she was changing locations, changing times. I should have gone back to her and charged her more money, you know? Because I had this uncomfortable experience with her leading up to the event was fine, but afterwards I had a lot of other stuff that was going on that wound up going on that month. I didn't really spend a lot of time editing her photos. I kind of blew through the edit. I did absolutely no retouching on her portraits. I just wanted to deliver the photos and like get them off my computer as soon as possible. After I delivered the photos, of course, she texts me and she's like, hi, can we get on a call to talk about these photos? And I was like, no. I was like, you can text me, like, what do you have to say about this? She complained that her skin texture was weird in these photos, and she really didn't like the way that she looked, and could I go back and do a re-edit? And this is really one of the only times anyone has ever come back to me and said that they didn't like an edit on their portraits. And I said, well, I don't really do retouching. Like, she showed me, like, she had her cousin retouch one of my photos and like just face tuned the shit out of it. Like, she didn't have like no skin texture on her. I was like, I don't edit in that way. And if you look at my website, you're not going to find even one photo and one portrait edited in that way. So I'm not going to do it. But I value you as a client, and I will take another look at your photos. I just can't do it till next week. I wound up going back and looking at her photos, and I didn't even do the basic amount of retouching that I do on everybody's portraits. I did literally none because I was just like so upset with this girl. I just wanted to finish her photos. So I went through and I retouched her photos and sent them back to her, and she was grateful for it. But yeah, it was like it was half her being a boundary pusher and also me overscheduling myself and really letting my emotions about this experience get in the way of the quality of the product of my work. That was a really big learning experience for me. I can't be doing my best work if I'm stressed and I'm upset and I'm overscheduled, which I absolutely wound up. It went from like, I'm not working in September, what am I doing, to like having a 5-figure month and working almost too much in September. And she was kind of a collateral damage in all of that. So she was difficult, but I don't think I was the best photographer in that situation. So it was a learning experience. It's fine, I'm good, she's good. I will not shoot an event for her again, though.
I got a lot of clients like, I don't like how I look, and I'm like, that's you.
That's how you look.
Literally nothing I could do about
that.
And
I said that to her. I was like, listen, like what you're saying, your skin looks weird. Like that's your skin texture, but also like these Sony cameras capture that camera right now is like counting every hair on my face. Like you can really. So I was like, oh wow, yeah, your skin does look a little not so great. I'll remove a few of these blemishes. So
just to kind of bring it to the beginning, I know you guys kind of talked about it a little bit of like how you got in it. But how specifically did, and again, any of you can answer this, not everybody has to answer it. If you have like interesting ways that you did it, how specifically did like you get your work out there, and then how do you keep those emails coming in, right? Like I know you talked about like shit just comes in. And honestly for me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm lucky as hell. People just email me, people just text me, and it's all referrals. I've tried the wedding.com, the what was the thing, the thumbtack
Oh,
like,
yeah. It's
bullshit.
trash now.
They charge you for anyway. I'm not gonna get into that, but I've tried all those websites, and like almost never do you get real jobs from it, or do I ever get jobs? I'm not saying everybody, but like I've been lucky enough to just like get referrals all the time, and I know that's basically how you've been doing it, but that doesn't just come because you're good at shooting. Like you have to be a friendly person too. You can't be a dick shooting out there and like do it just for the art. Like you gotta make sure that the client is happy as well, right? So thinking about that, like how is it that you guys, like how did you start in the first place? Like that first client is like, oh shit, I'm getting money now. I want to keep this going. I gotta put my work out there. How did you go about that?
This is sort of to your question, but I think generally like something that I maybe didn't appreciate or spend enough time on at the beginning that I appreciate far more now is just really being a part of the photography community. Like I think that the more you're around people who are doing the same things as you, like not only are you gonna learn from each other, but also that's how like you do get a lot of stuff. Like because that's how people think of you is, oh, this person photographs this, oh, I bet they'd be good for that. Or even just like other small things. Like I TA'd for a class at ICP and the woman I TA'd for was awesome and she kept me in mind for some other things where I like worked some event at Magnum, and it wasn't like even a lot of money, but it was just like cool to be there and see what's up and just like stay present in people's minds. So I think that's a big one that we kind of can easily forget about, but is super important.
I think I started my wedding portion of my career by, there was a photographer, he passed away unfortunately years ago, BJ Enric. Did anybody ever meet BJ from Inwood? Oh, it was this dope photographer. He was one of the first photographers I ever met that was like, you know, a professional photographer. And he took me on to second shoot a job. I got some okay pictures, but that was like my first like entry into it. And it was because of him that now 12, 13 years later, I'm still working for that same studio that he put me on. And like from that studio, I met other photographers that I'm working with other studios and with them. So yeah, that's a very good point. Just like, you know, I always say, don't be a dick. Like meet other photographers that are cool. And if you're like-minded, work together. Like, you know, that's how this happened, right? Exactly.
Like get in the room, you know?
Yeah. Not in their room. Like, I mean, ask permission.
the room.
And it don't matter the level you're on either. Like the level of photography, everybody starts somewhere. So, just be confident and be confident that you're gonna get better at photography. Yeah, and there's like a trickle down effect. So like you get your first client, you do a good job, you take like let's say he's my first client. I'm shooting this event and I'm taking pictures of all of you. If I make you look good and you look good and you look good, y'all might not know each other, but y'all gonna hit him up to see if I could take your picture for something else. And that just keeps churning and churning and churning, and it just gets bigger. And who knows? Maybe you own a cafe, let's say, a cafe, right? And you want me to shoot some pictures for your cafe. But then you could be a Fortune 500, you know what I mean, a corporate CEO, and you want me to shoot pictures for your corporate event. And that's how it'll churn. Like, that's how I see it works, for me, at least.
For me, it's I've been operating more as like an agency, so I've been realizing or feeling like I don't want to do everything. Even like you said, you could do it all, and I could do it all too. But I'm like, I don't want to.
I don't want to do everything. I don't want to do everything.
You feel me? Like I don't want to. And then once you're in communities like this, then you can see talent for what it is and different talent for different things. Like I'm like, yeah, I could edit, but I'm like, no, I know great editors. And then you could keep the money circulating within your community. So that's kind of how I'm trying to operate in a bigger scale, even to the point where I do a lot of like technical left brain stuff. Like you know, and this is fun, and this I would consider it play, but I'm very like organized with certain things. So I was working back in the day, summer youth, right? that still exists, and that's still part of our community. That's still money that the government is giving to youth. So what I started doing for like the past 2-3 years was making them work remote and do a database of potential clients. So like now I have thousands of people I can reach out to, so that if the work doesn't come in, I got my database and I could just put in a couple hours a week doing that. So that's I kind of like systematizing my playtime.
Also, I think like, especially early on, it's really easy to try to like fit into someone else's mold. Like, oh, this style is really popular right now on Instagram. Let me try to take photos like that. Or like, I don't know, this type of photography is there's a lot of people hiring for this, so let me do that. But, you know, it's great to experiment, see what you're into, all of that. But I think personally, I've found that I feel most satisfied when I put out the work that I enjoy taking. And that comes through in your photos. So that's what people are going to hire you for. So it's a win-win. So I think when you can find that sweet spot, yeah, that's it.
So you talked about trends, right? Do you keep up with them? If so, how do you keep up with industry trends? If you don't, what is your style?
I could talk a little bit about my event photography style. I really love shooting events, and I've developed a business shooting corporate and lifestyle events. I also shoot portraits and headshots, but I feel like I don't promote the portraits so much. It's a lot of event work that I do. And when I'm talking to clients, I always explain to them that my event photography style is that I am like a fly on the wall. That was just perfect. It was just perfect.
It's a loud ass fly. Shout out to Jay, by the way, taking pictures.
It was just too good.
Carlos, please get a shot of Jay back there.
But I like to tell clients I'm like a fly on the wall. I'm here to document what's going on, to document the story of your event. When I go to other people's events, and not this one, I know Jay, he's a great photographer, but when I'm at like baby showers or weddings, I was just at a couple weddings last week, I am like grilling these photographers and judging them, because I feel like a lot of the time, event photography to them is to walk around and ask people to pose and to get group shots and to kind of like force what the scenes are. I always tell clients, I'm here to take any group shots you want. If anyone stops me for a photo, I'm going to take the photo. I'm happy to do that. But what I'd prefer to do is just to document the scene as it's happening, so you can look back on it. And like the people in the photos don't even know that they were being photographed. It's just like I try to be super non-intrusive and just document exactly as it's going on. And if you do shoot events, I feel like a lot of photographers want to shoot something else. Like they're like, oh, I want to shoot for magazines. But when you have a camera, everyone's like, oh, will you shoot my baby shower? Or will you shoot my birthday party? Right? Like you say yes to stuff. I feel like a lot of photographers don't really want to shoot events. They just do it for the money. So if you're just doing events because you're maybe learning about them, I would encourage you to also think of yourself as just a fly on the wall. You're here to document. You're not here to force scenes. You're just here to shoot it as it is going on and capture that vibe.
I don't want to disagree with what you're saying, because that is
disagree
your
with me.
style. But there are clients that want that other bullshit. So I have to do that too. So I mean, you know this. So a lot of clients, especially corporate clients, definitely want the 5 people. So what I try to do myself is knock those out really quickly. Just like spend like 15 minutes going, can I get a picture of you guys? Can I get a picture of you guys? Can I get a picture of you guys? And then do that over and over again until like I go around the room, and then I do the shit that I like, like get the zoom lens, get the 1.4, get those nice pictures on the side, like the fly in the wall stuff. But yeah, like I almost lost my work from a studio because I was like, no, but I want to take pretty pictures. And they were like, no, but the client wants pictures. And actually at first I wasn't even taking pictures with a flash. And they were like, these are nice pictures, but we need to see their faces. And I was like, yeah, but it looks cool. Like, all right, my bad.
If you're shooting events indoors, you should be using
yeah. Yeah,
No,
I was young.
no natural light photography in dark venues.
So like when I first started, I used to keep up with the trends because I was learning. So like learning what I wanted to do. So you know, and I was like an Instagram photographer. So I was like looking at what I liked, who's putting out what, and trying to like mimic what they're doing, but in my way. And then, you know, I did a little bit of that a lot of times with different styles. And then I drifted away from that and I said, I'm doing the other thing. So like, I don't want to do nothing that nobody's doing. So then I started, like once I learned how to shoot and what I wanted to do, I said, okay, I'm gonna approach things a totally different way. So like you see, she just said, indoors you need a flash. Cool, I understand why. Yeah, of course. But I try to push the envelope to not do it and get the shot. So like if you look at one of my photos there, the one in United Palace, yeah, the green one, that's no flash. And this is one of my favorites. That one right there. That's Lápiz Consciente. I don't know if anybody knows who's Lápiz Consciente. Yeah. So I have a lot to do with his upbringing too. So that was like a big moment for me. And I wasn't even paid for that. Like I was just there and I had my camera on me and I didn't have my flash. So but it was also the things that I did before that led me to be like, okay, I don't have my flash. How do I do this, right? So I have another photo that I ended up in Madison Square Garden randomly for a Knick game. No, not a Knick game. It was it was a basketball game, but between Jadakiss and Fabulous. They had a mixtape dropping, and they had like a basketball game. It was Freddie versus Jason, you know, like that's the mixtape, but they had a basketball game, like a pickup game in Madison Square Garden. And my friend had paid for tickets, so he was part of the game, and he could bring a bystander. So he called me up. He was like, "Yo, what's up? You could come through. You got your camera?" And I was like, "I got a camera on me." I got caught with 36 shots, black and white, with my Canon 35 millimeter in Madison Square Garden, no flash, and I got some shots off. Not all of them. Out of the 36, I probably got like 9, but it worked, you know. And that all goes from like, you know, the past situations you come across that you just have to make it work. Yeah, so I started saying, nah, let me just do my thing and make it work the way I make it work, and it's been working for me. I'm not saying to follow what I'm doing. If you want to be very successful, go by the rules, and because it's gonna take a lot of fucked up situations for you to know what to do. You know.
I think this is a very important question. I think, Leo, you kind of talked about this a little bit. You mentioned, I think, that like it started to feel like work, right? So I've been shooting again like more than 15 years, and sometimes when I shoot, it does feel like work. And hold on, I gotta say this because I hear this shit so much and it's so annoying, and I understand where it's coming from. But when people say, if you're having fun, it won't feel like work, it does feel like work because it is work. But it's still enjoyable. You can still have joy when you're working, but it feels like work because it is literal labor, you know, like you're actually working. So when people say that, you could be like, yeah, it is work though, so I still need to get paid. Because that's their way of saying, I'll give you half, or, you know, I got $100. But my point was that, so when it does start to feel like work, because at first you're like excited, oh shit, I'm getting paid for this is fun, I learned this technically, so now I could do this without even thinking it's fun. I'm getting some great shots. But it starts, sometimes when you start shooting an event or whatever it is, you might not actually want to be there anymore. And when you're editing, you're like, I don't want to do this. But you still want to be a photographer. So when we go out on our walks, you know, one of my things was like, the Uptown Photowalk kind of started with just like hanging out, and then Carlos forced me to keep going. So now it's still here. We go out and shoot, and I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes I'm out there and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not feeling it today, and it is every month. So like, you can't expect me to be happy every month. But you know, most of the time I'm enjoying myself. But sometimes I'm like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it, and it's because we do this for a living. We do photography for a living. So my question is, how do you get back into that creative space that photography very likely started for you? Like, how do you unlock that part of the brain? For me, I started making beats. And that video that you saw, that was my beat. Thank you very much. They're all right. But that's how I do that for myself. You know, I'm up at 3 a.m. making beats, and I'm enjoying the shit out of myself. And that's what I used to feel with photography. So if you do, how do you unlock that? Even if it is with photography, like, how do you unlock that part of your brain now?
So one of them is doing things like this or joining groups like this. Sometimes when I do these walks, I come home with like 3 shots. And I noticed I was talking the whole time. I was yapping. I was making new friends. And I was like, that's actually what I needed. But it's nice to have the camera on me. And when it comes to like work, to make that fun, the thing that I do is I make sure that like my contracts are solid and that I'm getting paid no matter what. And I put that in my contract. And then like if the client is kind of difficult to work with in the beginning, I raise the prices. And then I'm like, all right, so if I'm doing that, I feel more comfortable. Like everything that I do before I touch the camera is done so that I feel comfortable when it's fun. So once I have the camera in my hand, I'm like, I safeguarded myself, I communicated with the client, and there's still more communication that can happen. The door's still open, but that allows me to channel the same feelings I feel when I'm on the walk on the job.
For an actual event or for when it's photography work, for me, I really have to make sure I can like get into that zone. If I like come in sort of distracted or like thinking about other stuff, then I can't fake my facial expressions. Like it'll show. So like if I can come in the right way, then it's there. Then like everything syncs up and I'm enjoying myself, they're enjoying themselves, it all works. But in terms of like other things that sometimes help me just feel creatives, like, I don't know, I recently bought some watercolors because I was like, I just feel like I need my hands to be doing something and like expressing, and like sometimes it's writing, sometimes it's, I don't know, like maybe drawing, I don't know, just other things that sometimes I'm just like, I need to get these emotions out onto something and visually see them. Yeah. Art therapy, y'all.
For me, I'm in a funk right now artistically because I'm just consumed with work, right? And like, you know, work has like its own artistic bag to it. Like, yeah, I know how to do this. I know how to, like, I do a lot of events for like the liquor brands and stuff. So like, it's a lot of corporate events. It's kind of like, you know, consecutive. It's the same thing over and over, repetitive. So like, you know, you get used to just going with the flow, I feel, right? And you add your little artistic thing. But for me to get in my creative bag, I was having this conversation with Jay, right? It's just I gotta like find myself alone, listening to some good music on a nice walk. I don't care what the weather is. The weather actually inspires me. Inspires my creativity. I like going out in the rain a lot, which is, yeah, like I don't mind getting soaked, and yeah, I haven't had the time to do that, so I haven't like been in my creative artistic bag for a while. Yeah, that's pretty much my.
Come to a walk.
Come to what?
Come to a walk.
But notice the last walk I went on. Where was I?
In the car?
No, I was across the street from y'all the whole time.
Oh yeah.
Alone. Like,
but you got some
that's
dope
how I
shots
walk.
of us.
That's how he was there. That's how I walk. I walk alone. You know, so I just jumped on the other sidewalk and was shooting y'all.
Give yourself grace and allow yourself to, because I'm saying that to myself too, because I forget this a lot. Like letting yourself chill, and you don't have to be creative all the time.
I think something that I try to do to keep myself artistically and creatively engaged is to give myself breaks from creating. The vast majority of work I'm producing is for paid clients. It's not personal work. It's not usually ever for fun. Shooting events is very physical. It's very chaotic. It's very intense. Like even just this week, I'm not sure how I made it through this week. It was a very intense week with some really weird events. And just
Want to talk about any of them?
No. I just want to edit the photos and be done. Yeah, like I want to get through this weekend for Uptown Photofest, and like next week, I don't know what day, but I'm going to take one day to just go out and just be by myself. I also love walking around in the rain. I love going through for really, really long walks, like not even with my camera, just with my phone camera, you know, but just going and getting a massage, going and getting lunch by myself somewhere, like I'm a very like type A, anxious, like super intense person myself. So, which I believe is why I'm successful at doing this kind of work, but it also drives me insane. So I need to give myself breaks to just relax and calm down. And I think the other thing is to work on shoots for fun, you know, and like not everything has to be for a client. And sometimes just getting together with your friends that I have met through Uptown Photowalk and similar communities to just create stuff with no pressure. Like I've done shoots with friends that I've not even posted anywhere. Like it was just for fun, and that's all it was, you know, and those photos are memories for us. So yeah, just trying to like give myself breaks, calm down, get away from the work for a little bit, and just create stuff for fun.
Malaya, our youngest volunteer, asked if you at any point wanted to just quit.
Yeah, somebody recently asked me like, oh, you've been doing this for 2 years now. Does it get any easier? No, it does not get easier. I feel like it gets harder. I am getting inquiries for bigger projects with more responsibility and more deliverables. I had to hire a CPA last year to do my taxes, and I still don't understand my taxes or feel like I've even paid them correctly the last year, you know. So it's like it's just more and more to figure out, and like there are days where I'm just like, wow, like, or when I looked at how much money I made last year, like it wasn't a small amount of money, but it wasn't as much money as I was making at a salaried full-time job. So it's like, should I go get a job? I don't know. But when I feel like quitting, I remind myself that all of my efforts go into building my own empire. You know, like I used to work for a big corporate company that upper management made it very clear they didn't care about us, but I was working really hard for not a lot of money, you know, so I felt like my labor was going to somebody who didn't care. Now my labor goes to me. So yeah, I feel like quitting a lot, and I think it's okay to feel like quitting, but I think it's just more important to find those reasons to keep going.
Imposter syndrome is real. I've definitely felt like quitting when I feel like, oh, am I really not good enough in this area, or so, like when you start comparing yourself to other people, things like that. Or sometimes when I'm like just not feeling creative, I'm like, oh, should I not be doing this but also similar to what Sam just said, like that stuff passes, you know, like you get back into the positive into the positive side of things. So yeah, I've definitely felt it, but then gotten out of it.
I feel like quitting every time my Mac freezes. that little rainbow drives me nuts.
That's hilarious.
I feel like if I had the dream job, like creative director somewhere, you doing the admin, I'm doing what I want to do, I'm still probably gonna be shooting. That's why, like, I don't think about it.
So the question was, do you think it's possible to have a career primarily shooting film, right? Not digital, because digital is like the norm.
I shoot film, but I'll be fully transparent. I have a 9-to-5 job. But I think that, like, you know, whatever you want to do, you can do it. I think you just have to really kind of market yourself as a film photographer, and really have a specific style. Like, I think in terms of networking, like all of those things, I think you would need to really put in a lot of that work. But shoot, I mean, I feel like you can do anything. And, you know, it might be a windy path, but I think, yeah, it's totally possible. But I do not do it.
So I don't have any specific advice for you, but the question that popped into my mind when you were asking your question was, I wonder if there are photographers that are shooting primarily on film and making a living out of it. So that's what I would be curious about. Like, find who are those people, what are they doing, what kind of stuff are they shooting. I don't shoot weddings anymore, but I know that film in weddings is a huge trend right now. Typically, from what I've seen, people that I know that do it, they're shooting the entire event on digital, and they shoot a few rolls of film throughout. But how were people shooting weddings before digital? They were shooting them all on film, right? So yeah, I'd be curious to see like who's making a living doing that, or has a following doing that, and see what you can model after that person.
I thought of someone who does. Nick Collingwood. His Instagram is Nick Collingwood Vintage. He does that, but he also shoots 4x5. He also shoots a lot of instant photography. But that's a good example of someone whose style is like very clearly defined. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he exclusively.
Do you know about the Bronx Documentary Center? Oh, so you should look them up, because they have things, they have resources, and like if you want to find your sauce and develop your own film, you could learn how to do that. You could learn how you want your film to look like, and that could be like your signature thing.
Mm-hmm. You should look into like agencies, like let's say a wedding agency or something. They might use you just to shoot film for them, like at their events, you know.
Okay, so
sheesh.
Okay, so we're gonna be here for another half hour. So the question is simply, how do we handle our finances?
I don't.
And
Yeah,
so how do we handle our finances? Knowing if we don't have insurance. I got insurance. Right, like not knowing what you're gonna get and doing your taxes and all that stuff. How do you do that? Let me. I want to take a little bit of this. Sorry. I do my own taxes, and it takes about 2 months to do it. I do it myself. It's a lot of work, and I end up paying more and more every year, and it sucks. But weirdly, it's rewarding when you do it yourself, because you kind of see all the stuff that you did throughout the year, and you're like, oh man, I'm doing all right, you know. If you're doing all right, if you're not, I'm sorry. But I do have health insurance, and it's also kind of expensive. But the not knowing, I'm not gonna lie, the not knowing if you're gonna get money the next month, the next week even, is frightening. But it also is invigorating. It's like riding a roller coaster throughout the entire year, and you actually can't get off. Because if you get off, you will never get money again. Or you will be depressed in a 9-to-5 that you hate. And not that, 9-to-5s are depressing, but the last time I was in a 9-to-5, I was literally depressed, and I had to leave to DR for a month. So that's kind of the motivator. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be in an office. So that's kind of my motivation to not even worry too much about it. But again, I'm also lucky I still get work, and I'm lucky that I'm part of Word Up and Recirculation. Like, I still get money here, doing video and photos here, and my community, which is basically you guys. I was about to cry there, so I'm gonna stop now, so please.
I am still figuring out how to manage my finances. It is honestly the biggest source of headache and stress for me. But something that I tell myself is that I don't want to let myself get too freaked out by the lows or the months that I don't make a lot of money, because number one, stuff always comes up. Like, for example, I have 0 booked for July, and Emmanuel and I were actually talking about that, and he's like, oh, that's awesome. And I was like, no, I'm not intentionally taking the month of July off. I just don't have anything booked yet. but I keep faith that things will come through. And I also tell myself that if this is the lifestyle that I'm choosing for myself, because this is a lifestyle, and I feel like entrepreneurship is not something that everybody can do or wants to even do, but it is something I want to do. If I'm choosing this lifestyle, I cannot allow myself to get too depressed or freaked out by the lows, because this is just part of what the lifestyle is. So I mean, I tell myself that. I still do get stressed. I get upset. It's tough sometimes looking at my bank account. Like, I mean, I was doing invoicing this week, and I have $11,000 that is owed to me right now. And these are not like, this is not money that I'm chasing or people are refusing to pay me. It's just like contracts that I have out there that I'm waiting to get paid. And I'm like, all right, but like, that money is not in my bank account right now, and I have bills to pay, so it's tough. It's a mind game. But I just try to keep faith, keep positive, and give myself those breaks from work that I was talking about before.
The first 6 months after quitting, I was working, but I also gave myself space, because this is like my first time doing this full time at that point. And I just enrolled in therapy, talk therapy and EMDR. And I was like, you're going to get me self-regulated, because I found myself just reacting to things instead of like letting emotions pass and treating them like clouds. Like, all right, that's a storm. It's going to pass. And then it's like we're saying, you're probably going to have a $0 month, or maybe not, but then the work always comes. And if not, you can be proactive and do your best to outreach, but know that you're doing your best in those moments. Damn, there's another thing I wanted to say, but I forgot. So I'm just going to pass it off.
My sister put me onto Fiverr.com, like the
gig thing?
Yeah, like it's not for the gigs. It used to be and.co. It's like to keep track of your finances. So you basically, what I use it for, I basically send out my invoices there, my proposals, contracts, everything, and everything is documented in that service, right? So like at the end of the year, you don't have to calculate anything. Everything calculates itself and organizes, because I was a mess when it comes to organizing. Like all the clerical stuff, that's not me. Like I'm an artist. I don't have time for that shit. But Fiverr took it over, and they did Fiverr Marketplace, and it really works well for us artists. And it's a subscription, but it's worth it, because you know who paid you. Like she said, like she has money owed. It tells you like, oh, this person owes you money. If they viewed your email, all types of stuff is very good for analytics and stuff like that.
I remember what I was going to say. When I was working at the film festival, I was the director. And then while working there, I was kind of privy to the finances on how to like run a business, because I was answering to the board. And then the board would tell us like their projections of, either that month, 6 months, a year. And there was one thing that clicked when the treasurer was talking. And he said, and this is for context, this treasurer works at the place that shall not be named. And he said something that clicked. He said every business should have 2 years worth of runway. After that, I felt safe quitting, because now I got the information I needed in this space. And people, they tell, people in general, you should have 6 months of runway if you want to quit. But I think if you shift your mindset from 6 months to 2 years, that's the ideal scenario. But sometimes it's like you said, you might have money owed, or you might just have 2 months of runway. So knowing that you could project that far, that could be a tool that you could use.
I think we're done. Thank you to Sam, Lauren, and Dot for coming through. This was amazing.